Welcome, ball drillers. My name is Nacho Bidness, and today we're doing something a little bit different. We're doing a cooking show. I've got a little bit more intro here in a minute, but I just wanted to show what the final product looks like and say that I like to pair this with a little red wine. Maybe a little bit more red wine. Maybe even a little bit more red wine. So yeah, stick around. We're going to do something completely different today. We are doing something that is entirely different. JPickOdeath and Vault Girl have both been encouraging fellow YouTube content creators to do some cooking videos for their channels. So that's what we're doing here. If you are not familiar with JPickOdeath or Vault Girl, they are both fantastic YouTube content creators, and I highly recommend them. They're a good watch, and I will link their channels in the description below. Vault Girl does a lot of very good Let's Plays, and JPick does a lot of very fun Friday night streams, so definitely come by his stream and hang out with the rest of us. So what are we making today? We are making a pork roast, and it's not Fallout themed or anything, but the reason why I like slow cooker recipes when it comes to a weekend is that I can put this in my slow cooker and let it go cook for 5 hours, and then like go play a video game for that whole time and come back and it's done. So it's extraordinarily easy, and I do like the way that it turns out. So without further ado, let's get started. This is going to be so easy, you guys aren't going to believe it, and it is so good. So the first thing we need to do is we need to season with some salt and pepper, and I don't like a whole lot of salt, but I do like quite a bit of pepper with this, although I am running low. I may struggle to get as much pepper as I actually want for this, and yep, might have to go back and do a little bit more later. Next thing we want here is some maple syrup. Let's see if we can see this. Use real maple syrup for cooking like this. Don't use like Mrs. Butterworth's or something. The results are much better. So we just need a half a cup of maple syrup, just kind of poured over the meat. And the next thing we need is 3 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. I have run out of ramekins, so this is 3 tablespoons, not a third of a cup. And we just put that in there and kind of spread that around. Make sure that we kind of get all over the top of everything. I actually measure out a little bit more than 3 tablespoons because I do end up kind of wasting some on my hands here, as you can see. Last thing we need is another 3 tablespoons of brown sugar to top it off, and we just kind of spread that around a little bit, and we are done. Like, that's all there is to it. I'm going to wash my hands here for food safety, because it is raw pork that I've been playing with, but that's all we have to do. And at this point, we just put the lid on. We can cook this for about 5 hours on low, which is what I recommend if you have the time, because the meat's more tender if you cook it low and slow. Or you can cook it about 2.5 hours on high, but the real secret with this is that we are looking to get the internal temperature on this to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, again for food safety reasons. So if you have a nice slow cooker like this one that has a temperature probe, I recommend using it. So that's all there is to this. We're going to come back here in a second and make a dessert. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put together our stuffing for the apple dessert. Now, I'm sorry to say that there is nothing in this video that is going to be diabetic friendly, and in fact, you probably shouldn't eat this way on a regular basis, but we're making a cooking video here, so we're going to be, you know, a little bit decadent. First thing we need is, we need 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar here, and this is decided to stick in the cup, and there's the other 1/4 cup that, there we go, and we need a 1/3 cup of pecans. We need a 1/4 teaspoon of some, I don't know if you can see that, some nutmeg, and we need a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. Now the recipe actually calls for raisins, but I am out of raisins, so we're going to try some dried cherries and see just how this turns out. I know that raisins work great. We'll see about the cherries. So now all we need to do is just mix this up, and I hope my arm isn't too much in the way, but I am so right-handed, it is kind of pathetic, and I've set myself up here in such a way that I kind of have to use my right hand. So we just mix all this up, and this makes quite a bit of our stuffing for the apples. Now the recipe calls for 6 apples. I found that I only had 3 in my fridge today, so we're just going to have 3 apples, and we're going to have lots of extra stuffing. And what's nice about doing this is you can get this ready and then put it in the fridge until dinner's almost ready and bake it, and it'll be done when it's time to eat. So what I have done is I have peeled a strip on the outside of the apples and hollowed out the middle, and we just dump this stuff in here, and we're just going to be really generous with it because we've got way more than we need. Just put it all in, and might just put the rest in the bottom of the container here. We'll make a nice sauce that way. We just, like I said, since we got so much of it, we're just not going to be shy with it. And then we're going to top each apple with a little dollop of butter. And then we want just enough water to cover the bottom of our baking dish here. So you can see there that there is just a tiny amount of water in the bottom of the dish, and I'm going to stick this in the fridge until about 30 minutes before dinner time, and then when I get that out, I'm going to bake this for about 40 minutes on 350 degrees, or until these apples are nice and tender. Makes for a very good dessert, and so I will be back with you when everything is done. It's about 30 minutes to dinner time, so now it's time to put our apples in the oven that we have preheated to 350 degrees. And off camera, I peeled some potatoes so that we can do some mashed potatoes. If you need instructions in a cooking video on how to peel potatoes, good help. Yep. And finally, we've gotten our salad ready. I kind of cheated a little bit, and I used the bag salad. kind of nice because you can break those bags into 2 portions. That is half a bag and more than enough for a single person. So be back in just a little bit. Okay, so I have removed the roast from the crock pot and allowed the meat to rest for about 10 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer, and just giving it a couple of trial slices, and things are looking good. It's got the Dijon mustard has turned into a vinegary and tart outer layer, while the inside is still nice and juicy and sweet to contrast with that vinegar flavor of the mustard. And as you can see, it's turned a nice white color with some dark meat on the side here. So this looks like it's going to be excellent. Next thing we have to do is we have to mash our potatoes. So I am going to slide you guys over here to the sink. We are going to drain our potatoes and then just dump them right back in the pan. Now, never ever do this with a Teflon pan, because when we use our mixer, it can damage your Teflon coating, which means that you could have Teflon entering your food, which is very bad for you. People say that that can cause Alzheimer's. So we're just going to add a little bit of milk. Better to add not enough than too much, because you can always add a little more if you need to, but you can't take it out. We're going to put in some seasoning salt, some Lowry seasoning salt. We are going to use some dried onion here and just shake that in there. Actually, I think I want the I'm greedy for this stuff, so let's put some dried onion in there, which is delicious. And finally, we're going to add some garlic powder. I don't know if you can see that. That's garlic powder. And you know, at this point, with these potatoes seasoned like this, you do not even really need a gravy. But if you want to add a little something to it, the juices that have come out of the roast do make a nice little topper for these potatoes. You have to use it sparingly because they're so loose and liquidy, not like gravy, but they do add a little hint of sweet. Now, my mixer is too loud, so I am going to turn off the camera for actually mixing the potatoes, and we'll be back again here in a minute. So just a couple of last little details to discuss here, and that is when I plate this, I like to spoon some of the juice from the crock pot over the meat, and as I mentioned, it's a nice little adder to the potatoes, but you can't go too crazy with it, otherwise they get kind of watery. When I serve up the apple, I like to take some of the juice from the bottom of that pan and spoon it over the apple. Also, during the baking process, sometimes tends to happen that the middle will kind of collapse a little bit as the sugars melt, so it's nice to just kind of fill that back up with the nuts and raisins, or I guess in this case it's cherries that we used this time. So there you go. That is a full dinner that I am going to be able to eat on this particular set of cooking for probably the next 3 to 4 days. It took me almost no time at all, and I was able to get in a nice long session with Fallout 76 while everything was cooking. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do decide to try this out, let me know in the comments, because that would be really cool. Last thing is to be sure to check out JPic Odeth and Vault Girl and their channels. And finally, if you like this video, be sure and hit the like button down below. If you didn't like, please let me know in the comments. And until next time, it's a great big wasteland out there. Let's go have fun in it.